Valaquenta. The Vala, the powers of the world, the mightiest of the Aenir that descended into Ea, the world that is. Melkor, he who arises in might. Of all the Aenir, Melkor was the mightiest in power and knowledge, but he was filled with jealousy, envy, and the wish to subdue the world to his will. He descended into Ea among many of the mightiest Aenir, and among them he was the mightiest. Therefore Melkor is one of the Vala, the powers of the world. But because of the malice in his heart, he is not considered one of the Vala kings, but the enemy of all that was, all that is, and all that is yet to come. The Vala kings in order of power. Manwe. Manwe and Melkor were brothers in the mind of Ilúvatar. After Melkor, he is the mightiest of all the Vala and dearest to Ilúvatar. He is the one who understands most clearly Ilúvatar's purposes and is therefore the first of all kings and the king of all kings and lord of the realm of Ada. Manwe's delight is in the winds and the clouds and in birds, for he is also called Ulmo, lord of the breath of Ada. His wife is Varda, lady of the stars. Ulmo. Ulmo is the lord of the waters. He seldomly closes himself in a body or walks on land. He dwells in the waters and lives alone. By the power of Ulmo, even under the darkness of Melkor, life coursed still through many secret lodes, and the earth did not die. And to all who were lost in that darkness or wandered far from the light of the Vala, the ear of Ulmo was ever open, nor has he ever forsaken Middle-earth, and whatsoever may since have befallen of ruin or of change, he has not ceased to take thought for it, and will not until the end of days. Aule. Aule is lord over all the substances of which Ada is made. He is a smith and a master of all crafts. Melkor was jealous of him, for he was most like himself, but Aule remained faithful to Ilúvatar and did not envy the works of others, whereas Melkor spent his spirit in envy and hate. Aule was the creator of the dwarves and spouse to Yavanna, the giver of fruits. Orome. Orome was a mighty lord and most dreadful in anger. He loved the lands of Middle-earth and was the last to come to Valinor. He is a hunter of monsters and fell beasts, and he delights in horses and hounds and all the trees. He is also called Aldaron or Tauron, lord of the forests. His wife is Vana, the ever-young. The Feanturi Brothers, Namo and Irmo. Namo is seldomly called by his real name, but rather by the name of his dwelling, Mandos. He is the keeper of the house of the dead and the summoner of the spirits of the slain. He forgets nothing and knows all things that shall be, but those yet unrevealed by Ilúvatar. Mandos is the doomsman of the Valar, but he pronounces his dooms and judgments only by the bidding of Manwe, and he is espoused to Vaire, the weaver. Like his brother, Ulmo is also seldomly called by his name, but by the name of his dwelling, Lórien. He is the master of dreams and visions. In Lórien are his gardens in the land of the Valar, and they are the fairest of all places in the world, filled with many spirits. Lórien is espoused to Este, the gentle. Tulkas. Tulkas was the last of the Valar who descended into Ada. He is the greatest in strength and deeds of prowess. He joined the Valar to aid them in the first battles with Melkor. He delights in contests of strength and can outrun all things that go on feet, and he is tireless. He is also called Tulkas the Valiant, and espoused to Nessa. The Valar queens in order of power. Varda. Varda is the Lady of the Stars. She knows all the regions of Ea. Too great is her beauty to be declared in the words of men or elves, for the light of Ilúvatar lives still in her face, and in light is her power and her joy. Varda knew Melkor from before the making of the music and rejected him, and he hated her and feared her more than all others whom Ilúvatar made. The elves hold Varda most in reverence and love and call her Elbereth. Her spouse is Manwe, lord of the realm of Ada. Yavanna. Yavanna is the giver of fruits. She loves all things that grow in the earth. In reverence, Yavanna is next to Varda among the queens of the Valar. In form of a woman, she is tall and robed in green, but at times she takes other shapes. Her husband is Aule, and her surname is Feanturi, Queen of the Earth. Nienna. Nienna is the sister of the Feanturi, Mandos and Lórien, and she dwells alone. She is acquainted with grief and mourns for every wound that Ada has suffered in the marrying of Melkor. So great was her sorrow as the music unfolded that her song turned to lamentation long before its end, and the sound of mourning was woven into the themes of the world before it began. All those who hearken to her learn pity. She often goes to the halls of Mandos, and all those who wait there cry to her, for she brings strength to the spirit and turns sorrow to wisdom. Este. Este the gentle is a healer of hurts and of weariness. Grey is her raiment, and rest is her gift. She walks not by day, and from the fountains of Lórien and Este all those who dwell in Valanor draw refreshment, and often the Valar come themselves to Lórien and find repose and easing of the burden of Ada. Vaire. Vaire the weaver weaves all things that have ever been in time into her storied webs, and the halls of Mandos that ever widen as the ages pass are closed with them. Her spouse is Mandos, the doomsman of the Valar. Vana. Vana, the ever-young, is the younger sister of Yavanna. All flowers spring as she passes, and open if she glances upon them. Her spouse is Orome, lord of the forests. Nessa. Nessa is the sister of Orome. She is lithe and fleet-footed. She loves deer, and they follow her train wherever she goes in the wild, but she can outrun them, swift as an arrow. In dancing she delights, and she dances in Valimar on lawns of never-fading green. The Maiar. The Maiar are spirits whose being also began before the beginning of the world. They are of the same order as the Valar, but of less degree. They are the people of the Valar, and their servants and helpers. Their number is not known to the elves, and few have names in any of the tongues of the children of Ilúvatar. Chief among the Maiar of Valinor, whose names are remembered in the histories of the elder days, are Ilmare, the handmaid of Varda, Lady of the Stars, and Eonwe, the banner-bearer and herald of Manwe, Lord of Ada. His might in arms is surpassed by none in Ada. And Ose, the vassal of Ulmo, and master of the seas that wash the shores of Middle-earth. He does not go in the deeps, but the coasts and the isles. He rejoices in the winds of Manwe, for in storm he delights. He is spouse to Uinen, Lady of the seas, whose hair lies spread through all waters under the sky. She loves all creatures that live in the salt streams and all weeds that grow there. Mariners cry to her, for she can lay calm upon the waves, restraining the wildness of Ose. The Númenóreans lived long in her protection and held her in reverence equal to the Valar. And Melian, who served Vana and Ulmo in the gardens of Lórien. She dwelt long there, tending the trees that flower in the gardens ere she came to Middle-earth. Nightingales sang about her wherever she went, and she has an important part in the Quenta Silmarillion. And Olorin, he was the wisest of the Maiar. He dwelt in Lórien, but his ways took him often to the house of Nienna, and of her he learned pity and patience. Though he loved the elves, he walked among them unseen or in form as one of them, and they did not know whence came the fair visions that he put in their hearts. In later days he was the friend of all the children of Ilúvatar, and took pity on their sorrows. And those who listened to him awoke from despair and put away the imaginations of darkness. The enemies. Melkor, he who arises in might. But that name he has forfeited, and the Noldor, who among the elves suffered most from his malice, will not utter it, and they name him Morgoth, the dark enemy of the world. In the powers and knowledge of all the other Valar he had part, but he turned them into evil purposes and squandered his strength in violence and tyranny. From splendor he fell through arrogance to contempt for all things save himself. A spirit wasteful and pitiless, he became a liar without shame. The Maiar. Many of the Maiar were also drawn to the splendor of Melkor in the days of his greatness, and remained in that allegiance down into his darkness. And others he corrupted to his service with lies and treacherous gifts. Sauron, also called Gothor the Cruel. In his beginnings, he was one of the Maiar of Aule, and he remained mighty in the lore of that people. In all the deeds of Melkor, the Morgoth upon Ada, in his vast works and in the deceits of his cunning, Sauron had a part, and was only less evil than his master, in that for long he served another and not himself. But in after years he rose like a shadow of Morgoth and a ghost of his malice, and walked behind him on the same ruinous path down into the void.